It's time for Jon David On Law, a legal perspective with Prosecutor Jon David, candidate for District 13 District Attorney. For more information about Jon David's campaign to bring honest, integrity-driven law enforcement to Bladen, Brunswick, and Columbus counties, please check out his website at jondavidforda.com. And now, along with Jon David, here's the host of the program, Robbie Kendall.
Well, hello again, everybody, and we welcome you into another edition of Jon David On Law, our chance to chat with Prosecutor Jon David. And, John, you know, elections are all about the future, what people want to see in our three-county area when it comes to fighting crime and working with law enforcement. So, big picture plan, what would you like to see happen over the next 4 years when it comes to fighting crime in Bladen, Brunswick, and Columbus counties?
It starts with a stronger partnership with law enforcement and an emphasis on giving victims of crime a voice in the courtroom. You have to know who you serve and why. I will be a true public servant. I realize that this important office belongs to the community. It doesn't belong to me, and I will work for them every day in this important job.
Now, speaking of the future, you are here for the foreseeable future because you have a very young son that just graced us with his presence into this world.
That's true. You know, we were blessed to have our first son born in this past year. He turns 1 year old the next couple of weeks. And, you know, as a new father, that's had me to realign my priorities in life and think very much about the future and the kind of community that I want him growing up in.
And it probably makes it a personal fight for you because, you know, the communities you're going to be cleaning up in Bladen, Columbus, and Brunswick counties are the communities he's going to be spending his childhood in.
You're right, because when I go out to a high school and I talk to them, you know, I'll have in my mind the idea that, you know, my son will be sitting out in the same audience a couple of years from now. I realize that gang members are infiltrating these schools, that drugs are coming into them, and that it's so vitally important to work hard right now to make sure, not just for his future, but for other people's children, that we do the best that we can in the courthouse every day.
Why does having that young son and that young family, what different perspective does it give you from that maybe that your opponent has, and why is that important?
I've learned in my job that bad things happen to good people every day. And when you have a child yourself, it's more easy to stand in the shoes of the victims' families who you deal with on a day-to-day basis and really empathize with them and then commit yourself to redoubling your efforts to be the best that you can in the courtroom.
One thing that I think is unique for you is you didn't grow up in this three-county area. You're not from around here, and I think it gives you a unique impartiality that will be a great thing for justice in Bladen, Columbus, and Brunswick counties.
You know, I believe that it's actually a strength that I'm not from here because in a lot of ways, I don't owe anybody a thing. I can look towards the facts and the law in dispensing justice and not have to worry about all these complicated relationships that evolve over a lifetime. During the time that I've been working as a prosecutor in southeastern North Carolina, which has been for the last 10 years, incidentally, I have been able to keep my head down, focus on what's important in a case, and less on who the people are, and we've been extremely effective in employing that as a business model. We need that in this area right now.
And it also means you don't owe anybody any favors.
That's true, Robbie. Winning this election the right way is as important as winning because I believe that how you run for office says a lot about how you're going to run the office when you actually get there. I'm trying to be above board in my dealings with people. I'm trying to focus on my merits and ability, on my track record and experience as the true yardstick by which we should be measured, and I'm focused less on political affiliation, less on personal relationships as a means to get there.
As we do with a lot of these conversations, people have a clear choice, two guys to vote for in this election, yourself and your opponent. Today we're talking about the future. Why is the future better with you as our district attorney?
I'm focused on the future simply because I just turned 40 this year. And, you know, let's not confuse something. You know, it's easy to think that if Butch is 63 and that John is 40, that Butch must have a lot more experience. But the truth is actually something very different than that. In fact, I've been a prosecutor now for 15 years. He's never been a prosecutor. I have always stood on the side of victims. He represents defendants. I'm a true partner with law enforcement. He cross-examines them. Let's not confuse a knowledge of criminal law with crime fighting. It's a very different skill set that one employs. And so the future, looking forward, we first look back and say, who has had the track record and experience to give us hope for what our future could be? My name is Jon David, and I am that person. I want to be your district attorney.
All right, John, as always, thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to chatting with you again in the very near future on the next edition of Jon David On Law.
Thanks for listening to Jon David On Law, a legal perspective with Prosecutor Jon David. Jon David, candidate for District 13 District Attorney, invites you to learn more about his plan to bring honest, integrity-driven law enforcement to Bladen, Brunswick, and Columbus counties by visiting his website at jondavidforda.com. Tune in next time for another edition of Jon David on Law.